Here are 5 deadly mistakes that you are making in your job hunting strategy that is costing you job offers. This applies to college students, it doesn't matter if you're an international student or not, and early career professionals that are trying to break into the remote work industry. First mistake is that you're running into job applications without even figuring out what it is that you actually want to do. It sounds kind of obvious that the first thing you want to do as a job seeker is start applying for roles. But one thing that I've noticed with a lot of students that are trying to work with me is when I ask them what type of jobs they're looking for, whether it's a remote job or an internship or what have you, they say, I'll do anything. I'll apply for any job. And this really slows you down, because if you apply to everything, you're more likely to get nothing. What you should do instead is identify 1 to 3 roles, specific roles that you are interested in that matches your skill. The questions you should ask yourself in order to figure out what those 1 to 3 roles are what are my skills right now? What is it that I can do today? For example, I speak multiple languages. That's a skill that I have. The second question you should ask yourself is, what are people willing to pay for? Duolingo is an app that proves to me that people are willing to pay to learn a different language. So I have that checked off. And last but not least, you should ask yourself, what is it that you enjoy doing? I enjoy teaching. This is an educational channel on YouTube, which is obvious that I enjoy teaching. I have a one-on-one coaching program. I enjoy teaching. And so given that I have the skill of speaking multiple language, given the fact that I know that people will pay to learn a new language, and that I enjoy teaching, some roles that I would go about or try to learn more about would be a translator role or a transcribing role. And so instead of applying to any role, I will start looking into translator roles and transcribing roles. Now this takes me to the second mistake that most people tend to do, is not tailoring their resume to a specific role. So let's go ahead with the example of looking for translator roles and transcribing roles. At that point of my job hunting strategy, I would create 2 different resumes, not just 1, 2. One for transcribing and one for translating, and I would apply with the respective resume. If I'm applying for a transcribing role, I would go with a transcribing resume. If I'm applying for a translating role, I would go for the translating resume. I wouldn't use the same resume for both roles. Because here's what happened when you have one generic resume that you're applying with for every single role that you apply for. Let's say I have a degree in computer science, right? So let's say I use my computer science resume for a translator role. For the employer, it's going to show them that I don't care, I didn't read the description of the role, I don't care about this role enough to even understand what they're asking for, because I'm applying with a computer science resume for a translator role. Secondly, it tells the employer that I'm not qualified. I may qualify, I may be able to speak French, but it's literally 1 line on my computer science resume. It's not a resume for translating or transcribing. So even if I know that I have the skills, the employer, based off of my resume, wouldn't know that. And then for you, the job seeker, what happens to you is that you apply to 10, 20, 30 jobs, and you don't get any response because you're using a very generic resume, and because you're not getting any responses, you start thinking that it's a reflection of you, a reflection of the lack of skills that you have, which is not true. You feel terrible about yourself, you still have no job, you've put a lot of effort in the wrong things, granted, but you've put a lot of effort and you don't have anything to show for it. Instead, what you should do, like I mentioned, you should have a tailored resume for every single role that you're applying for. I mentioned 1 to 3 roles. So if you have 1 role, you should have 1 resume tailored to that. If you have 3 roles, you should have 3 resumes tailored to each specific role. And then you should make sure that those resumes have specific industry keywords, just to make sure that the employer, when they see your resume, they know that you know what you're talking about. You're using industry specific terms, you're using keywords. They feel like, yes, this is the person that I'm looking for. I need to talk to this person. I have a $10 resume template with tutorials on how to customize it based on the skills that you have for the roles you're applying for. So if you're a student with 0 experience, or you don't know what skills you have that could be transferable for the roles you're applying for, this $10 resume template would be perfect for you. For more information, check the description below. And now you might be asking yourself, but Gaju, how do I know what industry-specific words I should be adding to my resume? How do I know what I should be using in terms of language so that the employer knows that I know what I'm talking about? Well, this leads me to mistake number 3, which is You're applying to so many roles, but you're not spending time networking and making connections. Networking and making connection is probably the fastest, most effective ways of landing a job. According to this article, I'm just going to read it on my phone so I have the facts right. Job fillings through referrals are 30% more likely to get hired compared to other methods like job boards that only work 7% at the time. So although you put a lot of effort applying to these roles, I get a lot of messages with students telling me I'm applying to hundreds of roles, I'm not getting any answers back. What you should probably take time in also investing is making connections with people who already have the roles that you want to break into. And you do that through LinkedIn. By the way, if you're interested, I have a step-by-step guide on how to optimize your LinkedIn. You can download it for free in the link description below, but you need to spend some time doing that. The people that are actually doing the job that you want to do are the best people to teach you how to get a resume that looks good, how to use those industry keywords. They're the people that are actually going to tell you how to prepare for your interviews because they've done it themselves. You got to do the networking. Like, there's no way around it. I don't know what to tell you unless you want to stick with job application method, which only works 7% of the time, like the article said. But you have to spend time and make those connections with the people who are already doing the job that you want to do at the company that you are applying for. The fourth mistake is that maybe you're doing all the right things. Everything I've mentioned so far, you're doing correctly, and you're actually even getting a first interview. You're getting a screening interview with an interviewer, but these never lead to actually getting an offer. And the reason why that might be happening is because you're not very good at interviewing. I also offer interview prep lessons in my one-on-one coaching program. If you're interested, you can go and DM me on my Instagram for that. But you need to learn how to interview, especially if it's a highly professional, niche, technical role like product management, UX designing. Any type of very specialized role will have its own interview process. And so networking with people that already have that role is gonna help you get prepped for these interviews. And once you pass the interview, you hit a home run, like you're done, you're gonna get your offer, right? So also spend some time practicing these interviews, figuring out what kind of questions people are gonna ask you through your network, and you should be in a good position. And the last mistake that you might be making, which is very hard to hear and a very hard pill to swallow, I know that it was hard for me to hear it when I was looking for a job, is that one, you might not be working hard enough, or two, you might not be patient enough. You might be applying 1 to 2 jobs a week and thinking that that's enough, but let me tell you that that's not enough, because stats show that it takes 100 to 200 job applications to get one single offer. One single offer, 100 to 200 job applications. Think about that, okay? And this article was actually published in 2021. In 2023, we know that there may not be a recession coming. We know that not a lot of companies are hiring, so you might even need more than 100 applications. The second article that I found on Indeed says that it takes about 5 months to get a job, right? So given that it takes 100 to 200 applications and it can take up to 5 months to get a job, you might be falling in one of these categories. One, you're just not applying to enough positions, or two, you're doing everything right, but it just takes time. This is not an easy, quick process. It takes time. It takes 5 months to get a job, and so maybe all you need to do is be more patient and be more kind to yourself. So far in this video, I've told you that one, you should narrow your job search. You shouldn't apply to any and every single job application you see. You should be focused on 1 to 3 roles that you are very interested in. Two, you need to tailor your resume for these specific roles. If you have 1 role in mind, you have to have 1 specific resume for that. If you have 3 roles in mind, you should have 3 resumes that are specific to each role respectively. 3, you need to make connections. There's no ifs, buts, then figure out a way to make connections with people that are doing the role that you're actually interested in doing at the company you're interested in joining. 4, you have to practice doing interviews. Getting that first phone screening with the interviewer or the hiring manager or the recruiter is not enough. If your role is very specialized, very technical, there's going to be very specific questions that they're going to ask you. You need to be ready to pass those questions. And that only happens with practice. Last but not least, it takes 100 to 200 job applications over the course of 5 months to get an offer. And so you either gotta work harder to get to that number, or you need to give yourself some grace be patient, and know that something eventually is going to come out of it. You can't give up. Giving up is not an option, at least not on my channel. I don't tolerate that. We've already gone this far. Giving up would be such a waste of time. Be patient with yourself, be kind to yourself. If you don't have a job right now, it's not a reflection of your self-worth. It doesn't mean that you're less valuable than everybody else that has a job. It just means that it's a matter of time. It's gonna happen. You have to believe that. You have to not be discouraged, because I mean, once your spirit is broken, there's not much else you can do, right? So I don't know how to put this through the screen, but just because you don't have a job right now doesn't mean that you're worthless, you're stupid, you're dumb. It just means that it's gonna take a little bit more time. All right, that's all I have for you today. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to subscribe, because next week I'm going to talk about the ugly side of remote work.